Hello, pup parents, and welcome to today's episode of the Perfect Pup Podcast. My name is Devin. I'm very excited about this topic because it's one that to me is so important and not talked about enough, and that is finding your dog's currency. So let's get right into it. When I say currency, what I mean is every time that we are, whether we're in an actual training session, we're just around our dogs, we're out in a new environment, whatever it might be, all of our dogs have a currency, something that speaks to them and they find valuable and therefore can be a good reinforcer. So let me break down to some of those words really quickly, right? Valuable meaning they actually care about it. If your dog doesn't care about something, it's not going to be powerful enough to act as a reinforcer in most cases. And a reinforcer is just something that like says to your dog what you did was correct, or I like what you did, or what you did was good. They get something added to their environment, aka positive reinforcement that is good to them, enjoyable, and therefore increases the likelihood that they're going to repeat that behavior. So again, let's talk about the different types of currencies that we have and kind of how we can approach this with our dogs. Because I'll give you a really quick kind of case study. For those of you on video, you can see which dogs I'm pointing at. I have three dogs. Okay. Buddy in the middle here. He is almost 15. He cares about food more than anything. If we go to the park, all he wants to do is sniff around and find food that's been dropped on the ground. Okay. Sunny here. She does enjoy food, but she also likes some play and she loves affection. She's like really just likes to be with her people and to, get praise and pets and those types of things. And then Scout here, her name is very fitting. She loves fetch more than anything, and she loves to kind of be on alert and scout things out. So those three different dogs, all in the same household, and Scout and Sunny, they basically had the exact same upbringing, but one of them just loves attention, and the other one just loves fetch more than anything. And this is what I mean by finding your dog's currency. A lot of times we watch things, whether it's on YouTube or Instagram, and we see this dog that's out, someone's doing leash training and their dog is taking treats. And they're like, wow, okay, that sounds great. And you go and try and do it with your own dog, and your dog has not a care in the world for the treats. It doesn't matter how high value it is, they're just too overwhelmed or too distracted, or it's not high enough value of a currency for them. So, this is why it's important for you to understand your dog's currency and alter your training to go in line with that currency. So let's go with that example again, or with the example of my dogs again. So there's in my mind there's kind of three general reinforcers that we have for our dogs. Number one is food, and that can include their food, it can include treats, it can include table scraps, whatever you want it to be, right? Food. Number two would be play or, games or something like that. And number three would be attention and affection. And that can be, just vocal praise. For some dogs, that's enough. It can be, actually getting pets or a belly rub or whatever it might be. So there's kind of those three categories of how dogs can be reinforced. And one note on this that I want to make is it's important to remember that what is reinforced is repeated. What we reinforce is what will be repeated. So if we want our dogs to behave better on a leash, we need to reinforce the good moments when they are behaving well on a leash. If we want our dog to not bark through the fence when they are in the backyard and not barking through the fence, we need to reinforce that with one of these, three categorical reinforcers that we just discussed. So the next kind of thing that's important to think about, when we're when we're talking about reinforcers and finding our dog's currency is, although your dog's top level currency might be play, that doesn't mean you can't use the other currencies. And that's kind of the important part of learning your dog, spending time with them and figuring out what is reinforcing for them is finding out, okay, when I'm asking for something really difficult in a really high stress or, new environment, I need their highest value reinforcer. I need their top dollar currency. Whereas if you're just practicing something inside your home or maybe a behavior they might already kind of know and you're just polishing up, you can probably use a lower grade or a lower level currency with your dog. And I think it's also important to remember that we need to mix these things up. And that I think is one of the biggest traps that we fall into as pup parents is we think, okay, I know my dog loves X trait. I am like always going to use that. But what can happen is if we just constantly use the same reinforcer over and over and over, it can become less exciting to our dog. And so it's important to mix those things up. And that includes mixing up the categories of how we give reinforcement, but also mixing up, if it's treats, even the flavor of treats. Here at Pupford, we have 5 different types of training treats. Five, maybe six. Sorry, I'm blanking right now, but we have multiple types of training treats. And part of the reason that we do that is so that you can mix up the types of treats that you're giving. You might have in your training pouch, salmon might be your dog's highest value currency, but they also might really like chicken and they might be, okay with sweet potato. And so it's great to have all three in there because it keeps your dog guessing. It keeps them on edge. It keeps them on their on edge is a bad word, but it keeps them on their toes and just anticipating, looking forward more to what that reinforcer might be. And the last note that I want to cover about these reinforcers, about finding your dog's currency is don't expect your dog to have the same currency as another dog that you have, as dogs that you've seen online, as your friend's dog, your mom's dog, whatever it might be. Don't expect your dog to have the same mindset. Don't, just like us humans, I love watching football games on a Sunday. That's like a very great reinforcer. That's a great way for me to relax, but that's not my wife's favorite thing, right? She would maybe rather take a bath or go hang out with her friends, something like that, right? Like even as humans, we are so different in what is important and valuable to us, and we need to have that same mindset with our dogs. So here's how you can figure out kind of, and you likely already kind of know these things. It's just kind of retraining your brain to say, all right, I need to get less hung up on treats, or I need to get less hung up on praise, and I need to do more things with a toy or with a ball or whatever it might be. So here's one example just to kind of close things out here, with my dog Scout here. So Scout has struggled with reactivity. I've talked about this a little bit. She is getting much, much better, but she definitely still is slightly, anxious and has some reactivity around other dogs, especially, and sometimes around strangers. And on top of that, I think that kind of, reactivity, it has led to her recall not being the strongest. Okay. So one thing that my wife and I have started doing, we started this in our backyard, in a safe environment, is we started using the ball, so fetch, which is her highest value currency, as the reward, the reinforcer for recall, for coming back to us. So, we would grab her ball, we would take a couple steps back, and we would say, "Scout, come." And she would come to us. We would mark it, yes, and throw the ball. And that's a reward. We need, and like, to me as a pup parent, as someone who's struggling with her recall and just generally feeling a little bit overwhelmed, it was like this switch, kind of like it just flipped in our heads of like, wow, this is something she loves a lot. Just because we're not giving her a treat doesn't mean she's not being reinforced, because she loves fetch so much. And so every time that she does come back to us, we get to throw the ball to her. That is a huge reinforcer. And not exaggerating, in about 6 to 8 weeks of doing this, Scout's recall, it's hard to, put things on a scale, but it probably went from about a 4 to probably about a 7 or an 8. So kind of doubled in how skilled she was at recall, just by switching up her currency, switching up the reinforcer and using the ball, using fetch as the reward for her coming back to us. So I hope this episode is helpful. I hope that it got you thinking about ways that you can, mix up your dog's currency, mix up how you're rewarding your dog and reinforcing them, and therefore help improve their behavior, because that really is our goal, and our mission here at Pupford is to help you improve your relationship with your dog. So on that note, if you have ideas for topics, if you have ideas for episodes that you'd like to hear about, or behavior you're struggling with, you can send us an email, hello@pupford.com. You can leave a review on especially on Apple podcast platform. That's, we look at all of those. So, reach out to us, give us feedback, tell us what you'd like to hear. And again, we appreciate you listening. Like, subscribe, leave a review. It is so important and so helpful for us. And I personally am very appreciative of all of those reviews, and I read every single one of them. So again, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and we will catch you on the next episode.